Welcome to Faith Positive Radio with Dr. Joey Fawcett, the Christian business coaching conversation that increases your faith with greater joy at work so you love God and others more. Dr. Joey interviews Christian business professionals just like you to discover their secrets for working faith positive in a negative world. Welcome to Faith Positive Radio with Dr. Joey Fawcett.
Hey, Faith Positive Nation. Dr. Joey Fawcett here with another amazing episode of Faith Positive Radio. What a blessing to be here with you. I don't know exactly when you're listening to this, but as you do, you're in one of the first 2 months of 2021. So welcome to the new year. This is actually my first recording of a podcast in 2021. So I had to kind of remind myself how to do this and what to do and things like that. No, not really. We're concluding year 6 actually of Faith Positive Radio. So it's a real blessing that you would give time and energy to listening to this today. Hey, I have heard more people complaining about 2020 than any other year I remember in my lifetime. Now I didn't live through the Great Depression, but I really have heard a lot of people. I mean, you've seen the memes on Facebook and on Twitter all over the place about, let's, in fact, my wife wanted to open the doors at the stroke of midnight as we went into 2021. She said, we're going to throw open all the doors and windows and we're going to usher 2020 out. We're just going to push it all out of here. And then we're going to close them quick and let 2021 start thriving. It was a really challenging year. And what's happened for so many of us, despite the fact that we're Christians, we still live in this world. We do our very best not to be of this world, right? But we're still living in this world. So what happens is a cumulative effect of all the anxiety and stress and tension of presidential election that was as contentious as this one that we saw in November. Dare I say COVID-19 cast a pale over about 9 months out of the year, maybe 10. Just thing after thing after thing happened. I'm sure personally for you, your focus became on those things going wrong since everything else around you was going wrong. So as you come into 2021, I guess what I want you to think about is, what are you going to do with all that overwhelm? Where does it go? How is that anxiety translating for you and transferring into 2021? Or did you put a hard stop at the end of 2020 and really get a chance to give God a chance to do a new thing like Isaiah talks about? Are you really giving yourself an opportunity to soar on wings like eagles, right? Or are you just kind of slogging along, bringing the mud out of 2020 with you? The key to all of this lies in our mind. As you know, we talk about a lot in Faith Positive in a Negative World, our bestseller, redefining reality, right? So you choose that reality, the reality to which God's called you. And my guest today is a new book's come out in January 2021. So it's a great time for you to put this book on your reading list, right? Get it up there at the top so that you can really create a better mental model for how you as a Christian business professional live out your faith in the workplace and actually redefine what's possible for you, your family, the company you work for. The name of the book is Redefining Possible. And I have the privilege of welcoming to Faith Positive Radio today, one of the authors, Ron Alford. Ron, welcome to Faith Positive Radio, man.
Dr. Joey, thank you. I've been looking forward to this time with you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, man, absolutely delightful. Redefining Possible. Where'd you get that title, Ron? And if you want to tell me the marketing department created it, that's okay too.
I'll be honest with
you. Yeah, that's right.
It's funny because my wife and I were talking about this last week because the timing of it coming out right now. We've talked for years about belief barriers. So my co-author Dustin and I, and just trying to break our thought patterns and open ourselves up to new possibilities. And that, and of course, all your listeners can relate just with our spiritual walk, or how we treat finances, our relationships, our business, our fitness, our nutrition and fitness levels. I mean, anything. So what's possible? How do I reframe my thoughts? And so that topic was very relevant for years. And then we try to just kind of capture it with redefining, restating, resharing. We all love new beginnings. I mean, that's the whole beauty of a January is this new, fresh, clean slate. So that's where the name came from.
Yeah, well, man, people have been clamoring for a fresh start in this January for about, 6 months now? Can't wait till 2021 gets here.
Yeah.
So, in fact, I saw people encouraging others to eat more black-eyed peas on January 1. So I guess there are all kinds of ways of redefining the possible. Fortunately, Ron Alford, the author of this book that's destined to be a bestseller, has a few more strategies than eating more black-eyed peas. In fact, you have 7 strategies in the book. So we're not going to give away all the assets of the book today, but this is like asking you to choose between your children, right? What are some of your favorite strategies out of those 7, Ron?
Yeah, good analogy about the kid. I think right now, maybe it's just relevant in my own life, but ownership, our second strategy, we dig deep into what personal responsibility looks like. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because you just asked that question off the cuff, and I'm sitting here thinking, I think part of my mind goes there because you just talked about how 2020, the election, the pandemic, et cetera, all these things that are out of our control.
Totally.
But how do I still own my results? Like if I have a situation where my health is way out of whack, or my finances are way out of whack, or I have relationships that I can always blame. I can always blame it on government or their fault or who, and the whole topic of ownership is something every day I have to think, am I taking full responsibility? If my spouse and I are off over the last week in our energy or our mood, it's on me. How can I take that 100% responsibility? And so that ownership topic is always relevant, but I think even more in a time like this.
Oh man, it is huge because I guess we're all looking for someone to blame, right? And in fact, I've maintained that's why some people get married. So they'll have somebody close at hand to blame for all their problems, right? Can't be me. It's got to be you. What do you mean it's my fault? I'm perfect in every way, at least in my own mind, right?
Or their children's problems. If only you would have the way I said we should parent. Then.
Dude, I have come home from more than a few trips to hear about what my daughter did. Your daughter did this. You know what your daughter did? Never anything good. Always something wrong. So fortunately, the 2 girls are adults now, and they do have some redeemable qualities that look like mine. So, but we do that, don't we? We just, we want to deflect. We want to blame, play the blame game, as I like to call it. So, regardless of which side of the political spectrum you're on, it's the other person's fault, right? The ideologies are very different, but the methodologies are the same. Yep. Fingers are being pointed. And as you mentioned in marriage, economic conditions, well, it was a recession. Okay. You want to go back to the Great Depression and discover who created businesses that thrive today, even out of the Great Depression, which was the worst economic experience in the world's history. How does one move from playing the blame game to taking personal responsibility and ownership for one's own actions, which produce some of these results that can be controlled because that's within our purview of influence?
Yeah. Our routines, our habits. I think the times where I know I'm most off are when I'm entering into a day and winging it. And the times when I know there's much more of a heightened level of intentionality, planning, awareness, you name it, are when my routines are on. I go to bed at a certain time. I fall asleep without looking at my phone. I've already thought through how grateful I am for what happened for this day, and then tomorrow morning's plan. And then tomorrow morning when I wake up, boy, before I start looking at email and the phone and letting the world get at me and maneuver my emotions, how can I be proactive on that and get right with God and really start my day with conversations and pray, without ceasing. And then number 2, really think through if it is kind of that, and it just makes such a difference. So, and then the next thing I'd say, one other quick addition is language. I'm working really hard right now on like being hyper aware of things like, oh, I didn't have time, or anything victim mentality. and eradicating that language. Like, wait, stop. I had just as much time as everybody does. I just made choices that I have to own. So if I didn't get enough family time over the holiday, or I didn't get this work thing done or whatever, not blaming it, but owning it. It's on me.
Right. Steve Covey was the first one to really bring that to my attention in a pivotal kind of way. Well, maybe he wasn't the first one to bring it to my attention. He's the first one I remember where it stuck. Somebody probably got it to me before that. But instead of saying I've got to or I have to, saying I get to or I want to, and really scheduling my priorities instead of prioritizing my schedule, right, was the way Covey talked about it. So I absolutely love that. Tell me about your daily routine. You mentioned some prayer time, some conversation with God, things like that. What does your morning look like? If I were to peek in on Ron Alford on any given morning, what would I see going on?
Yeah, no, I love the question. I love the whole, how we start and begin something, right?
Right. Yep.
And so getting out of bed, some sort of affirmation, some sort of, this is the day the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in this. Lord, man, let's do this. Something that just gets inertia going, positivity going. And then it's very much getting ready for me, movement, like getting some body, like whether it's getting out in the rain and running this time of year in Seattle, or it's, we now are like a lot of Americans, we have a garage gym. And so we've
Planet Fitness moved into the garage, huh?
all this money on gym memberships. So
yeah, that's right. Planet Alford has come to the house.
But getting, so it's one of two things. And I love variety. You and I talked before that we started recording about some variety to keep it fresh and avoid monotony. So at least 2 or 3 days a week, the morning workout will involve some sort of podcast or headphones or listening to something positive.
All right. So you're consuming something positive, whether it's listening, reading, whatever.
You bet. Challenging me. I need to be learning. Just because someone's got a title that says you're a coach or trainer or author or whatever, it doesn't mean we all have to crush ego constantly. And so how am I learning today? How am I getting fed? Right. And so combining the workout with that. And other days I love silence. One thing I do a lot with my mountain running is at least the first half of, even if it's a 4-hour jaunt, I'll make sure there's no noise. Silence is just so nice. And so if I'm going for a run or I'm working out in the gym, just pure silence to just kind of, it's almost like a meditative state where I can just really think through my day and think through how can I make this not about me? So that really makes a big difference. And then the last part of the morning, nutrition. I think feeding myself, my mind, my body, and then now the nutrition part of it, getting something good in my body energy-wise just feels good.
Now, Faith Positive Nation, just in case you picked up on something Ron Alford just said, a 4-hour jaunt. This guy is an ultra trail runner, and so running for 4 hours is his thing. You do what, dude? About 50, maybe up to 100 miles up and down mountains in the Pacific Northwest. So you may question his sanity, but it's living proof that redefining possible is a big deal. How do you get your head wrapped around? And by the way, I'm always interested in spiritual disciplines. What's the spiritual discipline behind lacing up shoes and running for 4 hours straight, or running 100 miles up and down mountains?
Yeah, no, I think like anything, it's transformative over time. I look back to just, a lot of your listeners, I'm sure, have had high school, maybe even collegiate athletics as a part of their past. And then we kind of get to the realization, like, oh, I've got kids, I've got a business. I can't play professional football anymore, like I had hoped. So there's just kind of that competitive fire. I started doing half marathons and marathons. It's not unique. And what happened over years, I realized I was so consumed by my dang watch, the results. And I would do this thing that I should be proud of. And at the end of it, I would feel, I remember the Eugene Marathon missing my time goal by like 30 seconds. And I was just devastated. I was like whining to my family. They were wanting to cheer me on, and I was being a baby about it. And it was just like, this
You
So
ran,
there's,
you ran 26 miles and you were whining about 30 seconds of those 26 miles.
you got it. I was such a failure, and it's like,
Dude, that's the deceiver getting in your head. How do you crowd out that kind of stinking thinking, as Zig Ziglar would call it?
yeah, it's embarrassing. I mean, it's really,
Yeah, and your family did not
right
want to
now,
hear
it's
it.
like you feel small
Mm,
to say that. And I hope some of your listeners can maybe, but what happened in my head was I realized, like, okay, this is not the purpose of running for me. I got to start doing more trails, or I'm not as worried about the time and just not
okay.
worried about my watch. And then, everybody's heard about the 20-mile wall, kind of that wall of a marathon where you kind of your body just shuts down.
Mm,
And that was real for me. I bought into that. And
mm,
part of this whole realigning our thoughts and what's possible, I remember thinking, okay, if I can do a 50K, which is a 31-mile trail run, maybe I can push through that wall.
mm,
And that was where that ultra thing started. And then, of course, once you do a 50K, you think, well, I wonder if I can do a 50 miler or a 100 miler or whatever the number is.
That's right.
But even since then, a lot of these adventures now are not races. There's no trophy. There's no medal. This is funny, real quick, for any of the viewers.
Yeah.
I didn't have this. This is a 95 miles around Mount Rainier, the Wonderland Trail.
Holy cow.
This is a rock. It's a rock I found on the trail.
Wow.
You don't get a trophy. This is what's called rim to rim to rim in the Grand Canyon. And there's no trophy, but I just grabbed a rock out of the Grand Canyon as a memento. And so
You ran the whole rim of the Grand Canyon?
You go rim down to the river, up to the north, so south rim down and up, and then back, rim to rim to rim.
Holy
they call
cow.
it. And it's,
dude, I've been to the Grand Canyon. That's a whole lot of running going on there. And the incline, to say the least.
Yeah, not a lot of trees there.
A whole lot of rocks. I don't guess they're not going to miss that one you picked up, right?
Right, a lot of rocks. Yeah, but that's just long answer to your question, but just
it's fascinating. But the mental pursuit that's what sets the ultimate pace. Your body's going to follow, your actions are going to follow your thoughts, because you first have to think it. That's why the Apostle Paul talks so much about don't be conformed to the world, but be transformed by the mind of Christ. So somebody in Faith Positive Nation's listening right now, and they're saying, that dude is crazy. He's running 100 miles around the Grand Canyon. You got to be kidding me. And so for them, it'd be a big deal just to lace up and, I don't know, go walk a mile. So how do they redefine their possible to just get up out of the chair and go move for that 1 mile?
Amen. I'm glad you obviously great at what you do, because that segues, because it's true. It has nothing to do with the miles.
Right.
Literally just like anyone in sales. Like if I can make 60 prospecting calls this week, or whatever the number is, or that might be daunting. Or that 1 mile lacing up my shoes. And so, I'd say number one is it part of your vision? Like our mind's thinking pictures. So, having the end goal, begin with the end in mind. Good old Dr. Covey talked about.
Right.
And so that fitness, that, someday, like I want to be able to play with my grandkids. I want to be able to, I want to still run with my teenage boys. And so those powerful visions, am I looking at that? Do I have pictures of the trip I want to take them on next summer and how I'm going to hike with them? But that's going to get me out of bed for that 1 mile run tomorrow morning. Like what I'm becoming. So is the purpose strong enough?
Yeah.
And then number two, do you have accountability? Like layers of accountability. If you have some with your spouse, great. Who else? If you have some with your boss, great. Who else? Like having 2, 3, 4 different people that love you. Is it a small group in your church? Is it a buddy? Is it a professional business coach? Whoever.
Team of people.
But someone that's going to be checking in on you. Hey, how did the run go? Hey, man, way to go. Encouraging you, kicking you in the butt when you need it.
Yeah.
What would prevent us from having that kind of accountability? Pride. And pride is just, we know, all the listeners know, it kills us. Like,
ego, man.
You got it.
It's all about me, right? And so then I start back to playing the blame game, and the whole cycle, lather, rinse, repeat, right?
You bet. So one last thought on that. The 1 mile analogy.
Yep.
This is where I get really passionate about this, because for each of us, it might be different. And maybe it's that too much alcohol or too much sweets after 8 at night or too much video games or social media or something that we need to say no to or yes to. The same principle applies. What's the purpose? Who am I becoming by this? Do I have people that are helping me? I know that helps me.
I think one of your strategies in your book, if I remember correctly, has to do with vision boards and so that's what I'm thinking about as you're talking about visioning myself. We have a 9-month-old granddaughter. It happens to be our first grandchild. And so, one of the things that I use to magnetize myself is 20 years from now, she's going to be, almost 21. What is my relationship going to be like with her? What will we have done, between now and then? How will I have cared for my body to make sure I can still move and go with her? How will I be a part of her life? So that future visualization really helps. But one of your strategies is about vision boards, right? And using that for motivation purposes.
You bet. It's so, and again, I think for a lot of listeners, it's not a new idea,
right?
But really believing in the power of the more we look at something and pray over it. There was years where I was a single dad where I would grab my vision board off the wall with my twin boys who were 4 years old, 5, and once a month we just lay on the floor and talk about it.
Oh, sweet.
Worst case scenario, they see that, man, their dad wants to be more grateful. Their dad wants to be more of a giver. Like, whatever those adjectives or character traits that we all aspire to be, are those represented on the vision board? I think that the challenge with the vision board is that a lot of us, I made the mistake years ago of just putting a shiny watch or a car on it or all these things I wanted to have.
Yeah. Possession-oriented vision board. I want to make enough money to do this, and it's all about me, how this possession will serve me.
Yep. But I think if we can start with the kind of man I'm becoming and am I living out my calling on this earth and the way God created us and having images of that on the board. So if I want to be a better listener, is that represented? If I want to be more of a philanthropic person in the community, giving of my treasures and time and whatnot, do I have nonprofits on there? Do I have images? And the beauty of you can go on Pinterest or Google Images and type anything in, and you see these incredible images, Bible verses, pictures, words, and print them out at Walgreens, and boom, you got a vision.
Exactly. Yeah, you can. So then a vision board, rather than being a material pursuit, becomes a spiritual pursuit.
Amen. And I won't add anything to that. And you said it.
Well, vision boards have gotten a bad rap. And to your point, I walked in back when we could go in each other's homes freely, right? Or offices, walked into more than a few and seen a Lamborghini on some guy's vision board. Now, they're on Lamborghinis. They're great driving and riding cars, but when you start thinking, comparing Lamborghinis to the kinds of things you're talking about, the calling, the legacy piece, who am I becoming? How can I benefit others in my community? Those are the things that people will talk about over potato salad and ham, if you happen to live in the South, at your funeral, right? They're not going to talk about that nice car you drove. They're just going to be talking about who got it. Right?
100%. Exactly.
Yeah.
And if that doesn't move the listeners, like to even just close your eyes and think about that. It is. And so let's not let this story about how vision board, because I agree. I was a military kid and most of us have either had a belief that, that stuff's soft. Like you just need to grind it out, just come on, just gotta. And so there's a time for that.
Right.
And then also a lot of other people where the vision board was very materialistic. And I think if you can, kind of get past some of those preconceptions, there's a lot of power. Our minds do think in pictures. And the more we look at the kind of grandfather you want to be, or the kind of spouse, parent, giver, Christian, believer, etc. It seeps in. It becomes reality.
It really does. I'm Pops, by the way. Well, she's not calling me anything yet, but she does make the P sound when she sees me when I walk in the room now. So I think I'm on my way to being Pops. Yeah. So meeting myself 20 years from now, what do I need to do today in order to get to where God's calling me, my purpose in life 20 years from now?
Yeah.
That's really magnetizing. And so what you're talking about is making a spiritual pursuit out of a vision board. And it becomes much more personal. Who am I? Who does God want me to be? What's God's purpose for me and God's calling on my life? How do I give expression to that? All those things go into that mix on the vision board. So it's much more than a superfluous MLM marketing strategy. Did I say that out loud? I did. Just to get people to buy more product. So I absolutely love that, because it really allows us to tap into the best of who we are, the image and likeness of Christ within us. So we've talked about ownership, and then we talked about vision boards. We've got a few minutes remaining. What's a third strategy? Say the third child that you really like out of those 7 in your book, Redefining Possible, which, by the way, you can go to getpositive.today and just search for Ron Alford. You go right to his page. We've got the book cover picture there, and we've got a link. You just click on that book cover, and it'll take you right to Amazon. You pick up your copy today. Or you can go to redefiningpossible.com, and you can get your copy through Ron's website. So what's one more strategy, third strategy?
It is hard to choose between these.
I told you, it's like choosing between your children, man.
Yeah, let's just kind of follow the feeling of this, our podcast. I think confidence is a really interesting topic. Because we talked earlier about ego, and we talked about arrogance, and any of us that are raising children or grandchildren, you know how fine line that is, and how on one hand it's like, just makes us nauseous to think that we would have children that are just beating their chest, and it's this pride and this, please let me be a better example than that. Right. But yet we realize there's you cannot watch the NFL playoffs next week or any athletic without realizing confidence is a separator. I mean, you take 10 average men or women that all have similar opportunities. Good night. Confidence is going to be the one that's, and so
10 out of 10.
Yeah. We talk a lot about false confidence, false bravado, trying to be fake. You're not just kind of that fake it till you make it stuff. Talk about conditional confidence, which is very results based, very, someone complimented me or liked my Facebook post, or I had a really good December in my job. So now I feel more confident. It's very based on results. And then the third part is unconditional confidence, where it's tied to Christ. It's tied to my self-image is rooted in things that God created in me. And it's my effort, it's my attitude, it's how I love people, my confidence, and I'm so much more secure. You think about the most authentic people that you ever deal with. They're not trying to be something they're not.
Yeah, and trying to prove themselves to you. They're just chilled, they're calm, they're who they are. In short, they know their identity in Christ.
Yep. And so I always think of it like a muscle, like that any muscle can get stagnant or flabby or weak or if not. So how do we exercise this muscle to grow unconditional confidence? So we talk a lot about that, and just how to not live in that false or conditional world, but more the unconditional confidence. And obviously getting in scripture is a huge part of that.
Yeah, that artificial confidence just leads to narcissism, right? Which is insecurity based, and that's of the world, right? So what's one thing that Faith Positive Nation could do starting right now today to build that true confidence, that real confidence that you're talking about that comes from that relationship with Christ?
Well, if I had to say one, I think there's power in what we call confidence anchors. So it's actually getting a pen and a journal, or your iPad, whatever you use, and thinking through all these victories you've had in your life that Christ has carried you through. We all know the footprints poem of the footprints in the sand, and how, I mean, all the times that, I don't know how much you know, but like one of our kids went through leukemia treatments for 4 years.
Oh, wow.
We've all had family situations. We've all had job setbacks. We've all had personal health things, family health things. Global pandemics or personal pandemics,
right?
We all have had them. And so thinking back through literally from academics, like elementary, middle through school and high school and college and on, all the things that you've gone through that God has carried you through, and you've been better because of it. And I tell you, this is one to not get lazy on, like write them out. Even find an image that you can even print out those images and make a confidence anchor board. But filling your mind with that kind of stuff, because then next week, late January, when something goes wrong with my business or my fitness or my something,
the wheel runs off somewhere, right?
Yeah, we're ready. We've got armor. We're grounded. We've got this anchor. So obviously everyone gets the metaphor of the anchor in the sea. When the waves get stormy, when stuff gets rocky, the anchor, holds it steady.
Yes, it does.
And so that's one big strategy, is thinking through history. Like your history, everyone on this call has a beautiful story. And nothing's coincidence. It's
all providence.
So it's
yeah. Hey, I don't know about you, Ron Alford, but man, even when I've tried to anchor myself, my rope is way too short because the seas get deep in a hurry in the midst of adversity. So I need for Christ to be my anchor and my anchor rope, right? To get all the way up to where I am, getting buffeted by those rough waves. I appreciate that metaphor. Yeah, we think in pictures. And so thanks for that. That'll really help us. Think back, Faith Positive Nation, on when God delivered you from something and it was all for God's glory. You'd done everything you needed to do. There was nothing left for you to do except to submit yourself. And so your confidence really moves away from narcissism there and becomes a God confidence that your Father is with you, is incredibly fond of you, and is helping you through whatever situation you find yourself in as you redefine what's possible in 2021. That's the name of the book, Redefining Possible. Ron Alford's been my guest today. Redefiningpossible.com is the website. Ron, what are we going to see when we go there?
A picture of me. No.
Yeah, so if you've been listening to this, right?
That would have contradicted everything we just talked about.
Yeah.
No, not at all. But obviously some testimonials of business people, obviously church leaders, business leaders, et cetera, that have used a lot of these strategies we work on. And
cool.
I think what you're going to see is just two broken humans that are transparent and have worked really hard for a lot of decades to build up a lot of stuff and share. And that's all Dustin and I are, is just two people that have gone through a lot and are working really hard to keep learning in our own lives. And then anything we can share to help that someone's shared with us, what this is about. So.
I got you, man. Faith Positive Nation always wants to know, Ron, from my guest, about a favorite Bible verse or Bible passage. I know it's hard to choose. There's 66 books. Man, it's chock full of so much great wisdom and truth. However, this is like choosing between your children again. What's your favorite Bible verse or Bible passage?
Psalms 3:5 or Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord with all my heart. And it's I think about that one so much. My wife and I are a blended family, and going through some of the things we've been through the last few years with our kids, that stands out to me. Trust in the Lord with all my heart, lean not on my own understanding, and all my ways acknowledge. So that word all is spoken twice. In all my ways acknowledge him, and he will help make my path straight. And so it's, I don't know, that one to me rings out so loudly. Like whenever I trust in the Lord with some of my heart, I'm hurting.
Yeah, when you hedge your bets with your heart.
I'm hurting. I'm off track. I'm living someone else's destiny, calling. But man, trust in the Lord with all my heart. Peace is just overwhelming.
Thank you, Jesus. One of my favorites also, Proverbs 3:5-6. Ron Alford is the author, along with Dustin Hillis, of Redefining Possible. The subtitle is Proven Strategies to Break Belief Barriers and Create Your New Normal. You can go to redefiningpossible.com, get yourself a copy there. You can go to our website at getpositive.today and just search for Ron Alford, and we've got an Amazon link for you right there. Ron, thank you so much for this, man. It's been a great way for me to begin. As I told you earlier, you're my first podcast interview for 2021, so I appreciate this opportunity. Thanks for going first, raising your hand. And I just pray God's blessings on you and Dustin, on your amazing wife, and that great blended family that God's working among. Keep going, man. Keep running and enjoy nature as much as you can. God bless you.
Well, Dr. Joey, thanks for having me. Thanks for what you give to the world. You mean a lot. So thankful to be here.
Thanks for listening to Faith Positive Radio, the Christian business coaching conversation that increases your faith with greater joy at work so you love God and others more. Suggest guests and ask questions when you email Dr. Joey at info@getpositive.today. And be sure to get your free gift of the 5 positive business conversations to have today coaching program at getpositive.today. Until next time, may God bless you with everything your heart can hope for and more than your mind can imagine.